Oh shoot! I can't start the show without a weapon of any kind. Let me grab something here. Do you think a polypropylene baseball bat would be okay?
Well, if you don't have anything else after all the time you had for preparing.
Well, I've got a bar stool here, but that only counts as a weapon in my world, I guess.
Interesting bars you frequent.
Yeah, they are. Okay, another baseball bat. Okay, I think this will do. Are we live? Okay.
Yeah, we are. I mean, is it heavy? Is it actually going to do any damage to somebody?
I think it will. Okay, hi. Welcome to the Plot Hook Inn. Why can't you see me? That's great.
Great start.
So that kind of ruins the visual gag, I guess.
Totally. You can describe it. It's like a radio show now. It's like, what's that you've got there? It's very long and.
Yeah, there I am. Great. So, since I obviously don't know anything about the topic we are going to talk about today, which is HEMA, swords, historical European martial arts, that is, and role-playing games, I have invited some amazing guests. So, if you would like to introduce yourself, or as I like to call Kristin.
Me first? Me?
Yep.
Me? Oh, okay. Hi. So I'm Kristin Brumley. I'm actually really new to HEMA, which is the Historical European Martial Arts. I only just started this last February, but I've been to one tournament, I've been vlogging about it, and I really enjoy it a lot. So I'm excited to see where it'll take me. But I've been doing role-playing games for a lot longer.
That sounded a little regretful, I have to say.
I'm like, oh, too long have I. Yeah.
Okay, great. Cara.
Sure, can go next. Name's Cara the Rat, and I think I cheated a little bit by putting up that decoration and bringing this cutie to something that's supposed to be European martial arts. So I'll just stick with what I'll normally do, and that's mainly doing freestyle, more or less historical. I try to use anything historical that comes my way and works, and I've been doing this for, holy hell, on and off 10 years, about the same time that I've been doing role-playing systems. Anything else we need?
No. So, last not least, Skall.
Yeah, so I'm Skallagrim, or Skall. I'm a professional idiot on YouTube. And, well, just like Cara, I've been doing martial arts-related things for on and off for about 10 years. I've always been interested in all kinds of weapons, really. Anything from a flint knife all the way up to modern firearms. And I've only got into really proper study of HEMA a bit over a year ago. Actually starting to look at the historical manuals. So there's still a lot of work to do there.
Okay, great.
What's your prop?
This.
Cool. I didn't get to show mine either. I feel like I have to show off my awesome leaf blade.
And please hold it for a second so I can screen cap this and use it as the what's it called, thumbnail for.
Is this the pose you want?
I've got another one of those where everybody is holding blades and one guy is holding a kitchen knife because he didn't have anything else.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Great, thank you. I actually got a list of topics and questions and stuff like that. You have already pretty much all answered. How long have you been in historical martial arts? I wanted to give a little intro about HEMA here. Yeah, as we said, we've established historical European martial arts, and I think the main focus is on the historical thingy, because martial arts is all around, and but it isn't really about recreating what happened back in the days. Most martial arts are adapting quite a lot, and even those who say they have got millions of years of history don't really have that, but they are all fairly young. And even though there are some really historical records, and the founders of the style have been alive like centuries ago, still systems mostly very young. And so in historical martial arts, and I will cut out the European here because it seems like it started with the European martial arts but has gotten into the Eastern martial arts too. So there are people who try to do the same thing. In historical European martial arts, you study the old treatises and really try to get into what it used to be a sword fighter or whatever back in those days, which is pretty interesting for role-playing games, which this show is about, pen and paper role-playing games, because I am fairly certain that we run into some problems with how usual role-playing games work and fighting in role-playing games usually works. So how did starting HEMA change the way you played role-playing games, pen and paper role-playing games mostly? I think we'll switch around this time and start with Skull.
Well, it hasn't really had too much of an impact on role-playing games in particular, at least the pre-made systems, if you will. What Cara and I usually use is our own concoction, which is pretty minimal on rules. We're more handling it more in the way that we describe the actions that happen. So in that case, it can definitely help because you have a better understanding of how it would evolve and what kind of maneuvers and techniques would actually make sense in that situation. So it can help a little bit. In case of most role-playing systems, they are an abstraction anyway, and if you get, from my experience, if you get too deep into the technicalities, it's not necessarily fun. So when it comes to pen and paper role-playing, I don't necessarily want 100% realism because that would it would take long, and you may have to look up tons of tables and all kinds of stuff, so that's not necessarily desirable. Where I do notice it more is in movies and video games, because then I have the actual visual representation of the fight, and quite often I'm just sitting there and going, oh, no, stop, please. Because it's just, in many cases, it makes absolutely zero sense. So that can actually spoil the enjoyment of the thing a little bit. But, yeah, pen and paper roleplay, not so much.
Okay, great. Cara, anything to add?
I disagree with him, as per usual.
Since when?
I'm not surprised.
I don't think it was necessarily the HEMA in and of itself, but just the sparring and having handled weapons, real weapons, I mean, the moment when you start doing that and then afterwards look at source books, you're often sitting there, no, that's too heavy, no, that's too long, no, that isn't slow.
Yeah,
and
you have
right.
that realization, like, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I actually have to agree with that, because when I was saying that, I was mainly thinking of the combat mechanics, the way that is handled by the rules. But yeah, when it comes to equipment, weight, and stuff, and yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and you start, like, you're on an adventure, and you start realizing just how much stuff you keep telling, well, I'll just carry that, GM, no problem, I've got that, I'm carrying it. And you're like, wait, no, there's no way I can fight and carry all that at the same time. That makes absolutely no sense. Like,
Yeah, and I think that's actually something that doesn't only come with HEMA, but also with LARP. Kristin is also a big LARPer. And so while most things in a LARP are not at all historically accurate, and they shouldn't be, having walked through the woods in full armor for a couple of times teaches you a lot about what you really can carry.
Well, and I've learned recently that because I've been involved in HEMA, I've been developing a giant pet peeve to LARPers who it's called like machine gunning, where like instead of like trying to be realistic in terms of like the fighting style, it's like this thing where I'm just like, what is going on right now? And it drives me nuts. Like I see that happening in a LARP, and I'm like, I have to step away. I can't watch this. This is awful. Like,
yeah.
It's seriously a pet peeve of mine.
My personal pet peeve in LARPing is having shields that are really lightweight and really big. And are pretty much handled like bucklers, even though they are power shields,
so,
whatever.
Oh man, there's so many things like that in a LARP, and like it kind of comes to the point where you're just like, okay, it's a game. It can't be 100% right. Like
I feel that's even worse in pen paper role playing sometimes still, when you're sitting there as the GM and your group is going, and now I pirouette across the room by throwing my sword at the enemy, and you're just sitting there.
No.
Okay, how can I kill you the most horrible way as punishment?
But the thing with the punishment is it's not really quite fair, and that's also where I see a bit of a problem with the... If you have a situation where one person or several have experience with HEMA or any kind of martial arts, really, and other people who don't, they are kind of at a disadvantage. And if you then reward the knowledge, which is very specialized, of course, which just comes with a particular different hobby, if you reward that and punish just, well, it's not their fault, it's not quite right.
Okay, you were cutting out there a little bit, but I think you are back now.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
What?
Yeah, something wrong with my connection. It's video and audio is kind of messed up.
Yeah, you are back now.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we are. Okay. Yeah, I can tell. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened there.
And I was actually, at the beginning, I was planning to do an episode on what kind of knowledge can spoil the experience a little bit, or what kind of knowledge can real-world knowledge can tie into role playing. And I think I will do that episode with everything but fighting, maybe. But it's in a lot of different fields. I think first aid and having been an MRT or something is pretty much the same thing, where you're like, no, that's actually not what happens. Or, all kinds of
Try being a
science
psychologist and play any of the more politics or manipulation-heavy role-playing games.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah, so that can happen. One thing I realize, as Skall said, the combat mechanics itself, it's, and as Kristin said, it's a game. And the whole system is maybe designed around one premise. And for example, Shadowrun used to be, at least Shadowrun 3, I'm not really into Shadowrun 4 and 5 that deep, but it used to be a lot about firearms use, and it was pretty good at making fights fun when firearms are involved. But at the same time, it wasn't really good at close combat fighting and martial arts stuff. Or melee or whatever to call it. There are systems that are designed around the premise that you are the hero, and there's basically two types of enemies. One is cannon fodder, and you really don't need to care about them until they appear in your character level ×3 and higher numbers. and like the boss fights there. And I think that's fine. If that's what you want to play, great, just go ahead. But where it really gets strange sometimes, I think, is in just handling weapons, as Kara said, carrying them around. How much does it weigh? How do you draw weapons? How do you put them back? How noisy is wearing armor and all of that? So
I think the one thing that always annoys me the most is most systems do long weapons horribly wrong, where it can take you up to 3 rounds there until you finally have your halberd just down. So how slow am I supposed to move?
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever swept the floor?
Oh. No.
Yeah, and also the idea that if you have a large, relatively heavy weapon, it's gonna move like in slow motion. Like, but at the same time, supposedly it's a super powerful attack. How you can generate a lot of kinetic energy with low velocity is beyond me. Physics just doesn't work that way. I mean, you can take a crowbar and just kind of bump it against someone slowly. It's not really going to do it. Whereas if you have something that weighs 1/4 of the weight, but you're really giving it a quick whack, that's going to do a lot more.
Yeah, even pillows can hit hard. What?
Well, it's much more about the size of the impact. If you hit somebody with the same velocity and impact that the pillow would have, but on a needle point, that might hurt a bit more.
Yeah, sure.
Ouch.
Like, oh.
Yeah, this is actually a good example. I mean, the mace head itself is fairly large, but if you look at
Down.
those tiny things here, ow, that would
Ooh.
concentrate a lot of force on that small
Yeah.
bit there. That's nasty.
That is a nasty weapon. Ouch.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
and maces and flails with spikes on them and all of that is actually pretty good topic that also is hard to represent in. Go ahead.
Oh, just while we're on heavy impact weapons.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Kara, now you've got me in the mindset where I imagine how bad it would hurt to get struck with any of those. And
Yeah, but then when you have an idea, like you're like, well, I wasn't sharp, but I remember getting hit really hard by like a blunt weapon, and I don't know, like, and trying to imagine that being worse. Like sometimes it's good.
I mean,
It's a
the
good
thing that's
experience.
standing behind me is colloquially called the horse cutter, because that thing can, in one swing, take off the legs of a running horse.
Uh-huh.
And this thing here is famous for taking off cow heads in one swing, so...
The human body is like not as invincible as I feel like a lot of people believe it is. Where it's just like, I can withstand these blows, no problem. Give me $1 million. I'm just gonna wade into these enemies and I'll be fine. It's like, ugh.
I also think that's what a lot of role-playing systems actually do.
Yeah.
You're always sitting there, oh no, my character. But at the same time, if you have an idea about HEMA, you're kind of going, I shouldn't have survived this.
Right. I mean, really, I feel like my greatest realization was like, if I was really in a battle, like, really, for reals, I would probably die. Like, that's probably what's going to happen. Like, I could be an amazing sword fighter, but it's so easy to just have that one, like, guy come in and, like, just get you right there in, like, that one little spot, and then, he's got a buddy or something. So it's just, like, I feel like losing is such an easy thing in real life.
And since you also mentioned wading into a bunch of enemies, that's also one of the common tropes where you have the glorious hero just taking on 6 people and just killing them all. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Like in real life, strength of numbers would just be a big problem.
Yeah.
If you look at how it's typically portrayed in video games and movies, if you pay attention, you actually notice that they kind of take turns. They are kind of waiting politely in the background while he fights with one of the 5 or 6 or whatever. And as soon as that guy is dealt with, then the next one jumps in. But if they had any idea what they're doing, they would just surround the person, and one. It only takes one to bind their weapon and keep it there, and then the others can just wail away, and that's it.
Yeah. And there are historical accounts where somebody has beaten multiple opponents, but it was usually some situation where he just walked in on them and surprised them, and maybe killed 2 or 3 before the others were even able to draw their weapons. So
exactly.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that was
there are certain weapons that were like designed to take on multiple like opponents, right? So like I think the one that I really like is the Jägerstock, for instance, where it's like it's got the 2 spears on like this either end of like this giant stick, and it's the idea that you could take on multiple people, but I feel like it's still not in a very ideal situation, and just getting one end
that's a real one.
It's gotta be I don't know. I know it's really cool and it's really fun to do. I will just stick to that. However, I mean, the idea that you're fighting off like all these swordsmen, right? And then your spear gets stuck in just one of them, right? Like, you're done.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, one historical example would be the Montante, the Spanish two-handed greatsword, which was actually meant for use against multiple attackers. But it's also mainly a matter of how you position yourself, because you basically have to move strategically in such a way that you keep them mostly in front of you. As long as one of them flanks you or gets in your back, you're kind of screwed. But at least if you have a long weapon, you can still kind of keep them at bay. I mean, Cara, you remember we've done that in one session where you with Jeff went against me with swords and I had the spear. And
I'm so prepared. The link is in the video description.
Oh, okay.
Check it out.
There you go. And with a spear, it's actually not too hard because you're just that fast with just thrusting forward. And they have to get into a range where they can hit you. But since your weapon has that much more reach, you can already attack them while they are trying to get into range. So you can thrust at one and then at the other, and then while keeping your distance. That is something that does give you a chance, at least if you keep them, generally in front of you, at least.
And that's the Jägerstock! But two-sided! Alright, that's all. I'm just gonna hold to my... no, you can do it! 30 swordsmen!
Make a video!
And
alright, I'll work on that.
and that ties really nicely into one thing that doesn't really get accounted for in a lot of role-playing systems, because you can train for these situations. You can, bare-handed martial arts, you can train to just throw people into each other and just get them in the way of each other so that you can basically take them out one by one. It's really difficult, but if you've trained it, you do stand a chance. And that doesn't really get accounted for in most role-playing games, because you have to use very different tactics and maybe even different weapons in a dueling situation, in a battlefield situation, in close quarters, like in houses and stuff like that. Multiple opponents in close quarters, in wide open areas, and all of that. But would we really want that? I'm not sure.
That's a good question.
I think you would have to add so much extra rules in that it's pretty much just becoming this gigantic, over-bulky system that... Oh, what's the standard joke? Hero system I've heard is about that level of complexity where it kind of takes you 6 hours for one fight.
Yes,
Yeah.
The thing is, it wouldn't necessarily have to be all that complex in terms of rules, but you could, I could imagine you could also just set up different skills for that. Instead of having the skill sword fighting, you could have the skill sword and shield fighting information in a battlefield setting, or you could have sword and buckler duel setting. But then you end up with so many skills, it also gets a little bulky.
Yeah.
I feel like I see it a lot more in LARP settings, like where it actually training for something. like kind of actually helps you. Hi, Dad.
Ready?
Yeah, that's my dad.
Hi, Kristen's dad.
Oh, okay. I see him, I don't see me, that's why. All right,
Yeah,
ready.
yeah, okay, cool. I am really lucky. My parents made dinner, and I'm gonna go eat that soon. I forgot.
Training for lab settings.
Oh, okay. We actually get together and like we'll talk about different techniques and different things, so we can like get informations and be more effective in a LARP battle. But that's the same thing as like you're training for a LARP battle, which is not the same as training for like an actual battle. Where like in an actual battle you can chop people's heads off, and in a LARP, the head is usually a no-go target. So, like, and that changes significantly how you do things. And I can't charge people, and I can't shove people, and I can't, like, do all these other cool things that, like, I wanted. And this actually happened to me 2 weeks ago when I was at a LARP. Had a guy who I was NPCing, and I was fighting this one guy who smacks me across the face accidentally with his polearm, and then gets me in the hand where I had been injured earlier this summer. And I've never had a moment where I've seen red before. Like that's not really. I just don't get that. But like, I swear it's a thing, because the next thing I know, like, I'm shoving this guy with both arms and I'm ready to hook my leg around him and, like, bring him to the ground, and, like, and then I realized where I was and that I was LARPing. And, so,
you realized that before you started to cave his face in.
Yeah, I was literally, and, like, the look on his face, of course, was one of, what's happening right now?
I feel that's a point where having experience with HEMA or any other martial art might actually have more impact on LARP than on role-playing systems. I've done full contact sparring for so long, I don't do LARP because it wouldn't be safe. I'm so used to, there's the opening in the face, smack right in, and of course you can't do that at a LARP, that's just no.
No. I'm gonna have to start just playing non-combat characters, is what I'm thinking, because, like, that poor man.
Kristen is just too dangerous.
I'm dangerous guy.
And I think that is seen as in one of the videos in the description too, where Kristen got her hand injured and is sitting there in front of the camera, crying and laughing at the same time.
Yeah, I don't. Well, you know, wasn't in the right mind of things really. It hurts so bad.
Well, it's a really great scene because it puts all of your experience in this one little scene. And, well, all the short documentaries, like 10, 12-minute documentaries that Kristen does are really, really good.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, right. GURPS does something like what we just talked about before derailing completely with techniques. So they basically give you the combat skill for all kinds of weapons or combat skills, and then add these techniques which basically say, okay, so if you are fighting from the ground, you are at -4, but if you buy this technique, it will let you put that to -3, -2, -1. But then again, well, that makes it really bulky. And what it usually does is it makes the game master aware that this rule exists. So one character in the group has ground fighting, and that basically means that instead of, let's just ignore that you're on the ground, the game master is like, oh, so what does this ground fighting skill do? Oh, -4. So that's -4 for everybody else except you because you've got the skill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, right. I remember I actually have a.
Go on, Scott.
I actually have a GURPS character that has points in a neck snapping technique. I just called that too hilarious. You can specialize on snapping people's necks. So what the hell?
Which is probably the only instance I've ever seen in GURPS of people actually using techniques. Even though I do remember you never actually used the freaking technique, you just bought it because it looked funny.
Yeah, it was really just more of a fun thing. It didn't actually happen. Then again, the character, he does deal with zombies, so I guess sometimes it may come in handy. I don't know.
Well, especially with that technique, you have to grapple the person first, then kind of overwhelm them in a fashion so that they wouldn't be able to defend anyways, and then you can snap their neck.
Does
and
it work
basically
like...
you have to be strong enough to work against their tense neck muscles and everything.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, okay, there are actually some... I've seen some other variations where you don't actually do the sideways thing because that would be too hard, but where you actually kind of just push it upwards, and apparently that works better.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm trying to teach anyone how to snap necks, but just as a side note.
He knows, guys. He knows.
There are so many. Does anybody know a PG-13 word for asshole? Oops, yeah, I said it. There are so many asshole martial arts instructors who call themselves self-defense coaches who teach people how to snap necks as self-defense, and no. If you are in the position to snap someone's neck, it's not self-defense anymore. Okay, calm down.
But stuff like that actually also comes in. It's not necessarily HEMA, but just knowledge of the human body can sometimes seriously influence how you play your pen and paper role-playing games.
It's less the system, isn't it? It's more of like the GM describing what's going on, or you explaining, the GM, this is what I want to do, make this so. Yeah.
How about a live experiment?
What is he doing?
What is he about to do? I don't know.
Yeah, he was grabbing his pants in a way that.
I knew it would happen. At least bring me my other weapons when you run around anyway. Well, Emerald and Henry.
Like he traveled the internet. Like he just kind of went through the internet and
he did.
Arrived in this other window and. I wish right now that I could just go off screen and then I appear in the next one and then the next one.
Seriously, that would be funny.
Really great.
I'm gonna make this. All right, new video. I'm working on it. It's gonna happen.
Yep.
I'm gonna make it look like we're doing a live hangout, guys. It's a live hangout.
Close the frickin' door!
And she's got guns. She's not kidding around. She's got guns.
Yeah, and we've established now that those two can go through time and space, so Kara could probably just shoot us through the internet.
Yep.
People seem to be afraid to be shot through the camera a lot, so...
I know, so for all those people, there's no bolt in this one. See, bolt out. And there's a lock on this one.
Like a literal lock.
Well, yes, it's a trigger lock. That's how those things work.
Good.
I'm running out of space to put weapons down. I'm surrounded by them.
What are we talking about now? What's our topic?
And I was not joking about the bar stool, by the way.
See? Weapons everywhere.
To make a shield out of that.
Yeah. It's a folding bar stool, and it's really good for keeping people away from you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Which is actually another thing that helps you in pen and paper role-playing systems when you've realized how great chairs are.
Say the GM, I'm picking up this chair. Okay, you pick up the chair. I'm using it as a shield. Okay.
Yeah, well, with me as a GM in my system or in my modified system, I would actually be able to say, well, okay, we will treat that as a 2x4 with this extended rules. Yeah.
No, the systems I'm doing, well, haha, what I'm calling the system here. Very gloriously, you throw 3d6 and that's about as much rules as there are. You would just say what you're doing with it and then just roll with it, kind of do it storyteller-wise. But there, of course, for that to work, everybody in the group has to have at least some idea about HEMA, martial arts, whatever in that direction.
Yeah, otherwise the players could basically use their knowledge as an advantage against another character. That's not fair in any way.
I think that's
I
actually.
mean, it's just like anybody reading all of the rule books, all of them, and knows this extended rule set that you've never even heard of because you don't own all of the books. I don't know.
And of course, that's a general obstacle that you have to deal with in role playing. Like, for instance, if your character has extensive knowledge of whatever, physics or anatomy or whatever, and you don't, and I mean, yeah, sure, you can just say, you can just roll. You can just say, well, my character uses their extensive knowledge and this and that. Right. But since you lack the knowledge, you might not even notice situations in which it might come in handy. And if the GM does not have extensive knowledge of that, and it's just very limited. But you, of course,
you mean like the one time because my GM had no ideas about guns got my character killed?
What?
Wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. It was my Cthulhu game master. I'm gonna hold that forever against him.
I'm sure you will.
That gets a little problematic, but you don't want to just play yourself, like with only the knowledge that you have yourself. And I mean, also one of the standard examples where it gets problematic is when you have a, let's say, socially competent, extroverted character, and you are more of an introvert, and you're not a silver-tongued smooth talker, and then the character is. Sometimes you really just have to roll, and I feel like that's also kind of the case with fighting. Sometimes it may be better to have more of an abstracted version. Like, for instance, I kind of like how Vampire handles it, where you have, the number of successes and number of failures doesn't come in, but number of successes when you roll, that's compared to one another, and also that basically you don't have this static attack, defense, but basically both do some kind of combat action at the same time, and whoever is successful is going to do the damage. And that's much closer to how fighting really is. In a real fight, you wouldn't go, okay, I'm just going to cut once. Oh, you parried. I'm just going to wait for you to attack me now. I'm going to parry. Now it's my turn. It's not how it works.
Usually not. Do you have any nice anecdotes, nice ones, Kara, not traumatic ones, about stuff like that happening, game masters don't knowing anything about spears or stuff like that? I've got this really nice story where I used some demon creature assessing, putting back the sword into the scabbard on their back without looking or anything, and one of my players going, sure. And yeah, that's because I wanted to establish that is magic and it becomes an extension of the creature's body. And
so now it's really cool, right, guys? Because you can't really do that.
I guess you could have said that it's just some kind of flesh scabbard, so the character just puts the sword on the back and then the flesh just
Ew, gross.
Damascus style grows over it and holds it in place.
That's actually pretty cool. I think I will steal that.
And then you have your weird flesh sag thing resting against the edge, and every step you make it's gonna cut.
It's constantly dripping blood.
Yeah, that sounds
or just have a character with a healing factor, and they just jam the blade in their body and just carry it that way.
No, it's fine, really.
That would have made it so much easier to follow that damn guy.
Sorry, can I borrow your sword? I have to cut my sword out of my body too, because it kind of grew in, like a toenail. Just bigger.
All right, somebody do that. I've already shared my most recent anecdote.
That's
killing
fine.
you, guy.
I don't think I have that many, because most groups have learned either to not do battle when I'm around, or my game masters know what they're. So I think that my game master getting me killed in the Cthulhu game is the only one I can come up with, because what happened there is that another character had gotten a hold of my revolver that character had been using for years, so was very familiar with, and put in blanks. And I've been carrying that thing around for 2 weeks with it, supposedly without ever using it on a shooting range or anything, and not noticing that the weight would have been completely off with the blanks in there. And then, of course, in the moment where I would really have needed the damn thing, it didn't go off.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's a little suspicious, yeah.
We are very sorry for your loss, Kara.
Let's take a moment. Let's take a moment for silence.
For my character.
Okay.
Come again, Kristin?
1 sec. I gotta talk to me, Dad.
The worst part is I wouldn't even have gotten into that fight if my character hadn't been better at seducing than the NPC, so meh.
Hey, you know what? Some of the best stories, though, are the ones where it was completely unlogical, right? Where you're just like, I rolled a 20, and that should not have worked, but it worked. It's like, those are sometimes the best things, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I really don't like the way most systems handle critical failures, because it's like, yeah, you are so skillful with your whatever, and now you wrote a crit, and now you're an idiot with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really, I mean, maybe it's just the way the GM explains it, right? Because it's like, it could be like a critical failure, but it's not your fault that it happened. Like, it's got to be something that it's like, and then the floor gave out. I'm sorry. Like, your foot got a little stuck. Like,
and that happens to all of us all the time. Well, not that the floor gives out, but
right, but something.
What do you know?
Yeah, like, my floor is awful every time I walk around.
Well, I keep it in check with a crowbar, so.
Not all of us have such wonderful weapons as that.
Speaking of critical failures and weapons, I also hate how many systems actually just say your weapon broke on a crit. Just how do they think physics and weapons work?
I don't think I've ever seen a system that does that. Or maybe I just didn't read that in the rules. I ignored it.
Most systems do have somewhere on the crit table something that says your weapon breaks.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I just never had it happen to me.
I think I've seen that in the Black Eye. I think there's one of the tables where the weapon can actually break. Or you can stumble, or you hurt yourself with your own weapon, and stuff like that.
I've seen weapons break in a tournament, like a messer tip went flying into the audience, kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that was terrifying. Everyone ducked, as they should.
I mean, it can totally happen. It's if you've been using it for a while, there might be,
micro cracks.
Well, yeah, micro fractures that you simply don't notice, or even if it's a fairly new weapon, it might just be poorly made. Maybe someone sold you some junk and just claimed this was this really super awesome steel, and then it's just poorly tempered and just cracks or bends or whatever.
It's normally the same rules, even if it's magical weapons.
Yeah, okay, that's a bit weird.
Magical weapons shouldn't break.
Then again, I guess it depends if it's like whatever. If you just have a flame enchantment of the weapon, that doesn't really change how durable it is. Then maybe not.
Yeah, but now this is getting into a magical dispute, guys. They're like, well, wait, were the elves the ones who created it, or were they the dwarves who was infusing the magic?
Even better when you have ethereal weapons. So wait a moment, my blade isn't actually made of normal atoms just broke. What does that even mean?
Well, what does ethereal weapon even mean? Like, it's only half here, so it can't really touch you, but somehow it still does damage. It just kind of slices your soul or something.
Yeah.
I would presume that's bad.
It doesn't work on atheists because they don't have a soul.
There we go.
No.
You have the placebo sword. Like you convince your opponent that you're just carrying around a hilt, nothing else. You're just convincing them that there's this invisible blade that just cuts everything. And when you just make a move at them, they go, "Oh no!"
I'm envisioning a LARP character right now. I'm like, all right, this is good. This is
I'm gonna check.
Thank you. Yes, continue.
Yeah. Oh no! I feel my heart has been cut in two.
Oh no! It's broken.
The spiritual essence of my heart has been cut.
Yeah, that's the homeopathy sword then.
My qigong has been disturbed.
But wait a moment, guys. Wouldn't that actually work better on ghosts or stuff like that then? So
Yes.
I guess.
I would know
Depending on the
we
system.
have to carry different weapons based on what we're fighting.
Well, that's totally a LARP thing. I mean, I've had systems where it's like, oh man, my normal sword isn't working, so let me switch over to my silver sword. And you're like carrying all these swords like on you in case you need one. Like, that got pretty ridiculous.
There's a brilliant gaming miniature which is called the Adventurer. It's this little figure with a backpack like this size. And that figurine also has all kinds of swords attached to the side, so you've got your sword for every occasion.
Right? Well, isn't that what you do? You're traveling, you're like, you find this sword on someone, and you're like, I take it. And you're like, you already got like 3 swords. Where are you gonna put it? I put it in my backpack.
And you have to remember exactly where you put it. But that's always something that I find funny with superheroes like Hawkeye and Green Arrow. Like they have this fat quiver of all kinds of highly specialized gadget arrows, and they just reach up there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's the one that I need.
It's really
Which
great.
actually, I believe, exists in Exalted as well.
Well, Exalted is by design over the top anyway.
True.
Yeah, it is.
The screw logic, we just need badassery.
I
think
appreciate that.
I don't know. I think it sets me off. I don't know. If it's a magical weapon, I still want it to make sense as a real weapon as well. So it might be a magical weapon, but that doesn't mean it should be 3 times thicker than needed and have spikes and swirlies and ruby settings and whatever all over the place.
What are you describing right now? I have no idea. What?
The funny thing is, even people who normally complain about that and say, "Oh, it's just a game and it's fantasy. It's supposed to be that way." The same people that would normally have a problem if you say that, "Oh, I have this magical fire dildo +1 or a magical beer mug that does crushing damage." Then they would also be kind of.
They do,
wait a moment.
even if they are not magical.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wait a minute. Hey, but are those are the. Never mind.
And beer mugs, depending on the use, also do poison damage, but that's a whole other topic.
Oh man.
It's more of the content.
I know
That's
a bunch
hilarious.
about that, but let's not get into that.
Yes, you're that time of game master. I know.
Wait a minute here. I'm drinking iced tea today, so.
Yeah, what are the bottles you're setting it down next to this time?
There are no bottles there down there this time.
He's actually he's like, no, it's tea, guys.
Yeah. No. Where were we before this part of
I don't
assassinating my character?
We were at magical weapons.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. Magical weapons, that actually makes sense. Okay, let's go over the usual enchantments. +1 damage and all of that. Okay, it's super sharp because magic. I think we can all live with that.
Sure.
There's only
Maybe
so
it's like
much more.
in the Star Wars game, you've got like the vibro blades, right? That actually, like, whenever you slice, like they like kind of vibrate or something, and so it's kind of like a like I don't know.
I don't know. As far as I've heard from physicists, that wouldn't do anything.
It makes sense to me. I don't know.
What you need is more like on a chainsaw or even on one of
it's
those
like,
turkey cutters where you have two blades working in that direction. It doesn't do anything if it's just going like this.
Yeah, this is my doner cutter. Oh, well.
I don't know. They're serrated.
I can absolutely
Still.
live. I can absolutely live with vibroblades because, well, it's so advanced. It's magic, +1 to damage. Whatever.
That's why I was like, it's the same thing, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and also, well, some kind of magic that would maybe accelerate and decelerate, help you accelerate and decelerate the blade to just get more kinetic energy.
Added, like, more mass? Like if it just was denser as it came down, kind of thing.
As long as it's not too excessive, because the thing is, if at the moment of impact it suddenly gets super heavy, it's also gonna draw on you. So
That's true.
The thing, since you're still holding it, you'll have to deal with some of the vibration of the impact. So if you have like this massive impact, it's just gonna reverberate through your bones. It's probably not gonna be super comfy.
So, but a little bit, like enough that it would get +1.
Sure. I mean, you could probably do something like have a weapon that would normally be too heavy for you to wield effectively, and then you just have wind magic like pushing against the back of a blade or something, or just whatever, telekinesis or something, and you just moving it with that as well, so you could still swing it at the speed of your arm, even though it would normally be too heavy for that.
Yeah.
And then
or it's just like the super sharp, like surgery needle sharp kind of stuff. I don't know.
The problem is if you overdo it with the magical super heavy sword and stuff, then you would still have an issue, because if you have an enormously heavy sword that is moved at extreme velocity, as soon as it stops, all the force of that is going to act on your body. So unless you weigh a ton or something, the thing would just pull you off your feet. Or as soon as you accelerate it and when it's at the height of its velocity, it might just pull you forward. So I guess
Thor's hammer methodology: you throw the thing and then you just fly after it.
Yeah, that could work. But then again, I mean, if you also have magical boots that just kind of anchor you to the ground, or just to make the whatever.
Yeah, and a magical garter belt that keeps your spine from being pulled out.
Yeah,
exactly. That's also a problem. You have all that force pulling on your tendons and your muscles, and that's not good either.
Let's go with the fact that it's just super sharp and it's just a little bit of extra weight.
Yeah, you could still go for, well, a little bit of magic evaporates out of the blade on impact and does the extra damage.
Sure. Like it comes out and like punches the guy. Nah.
Yeah, I think there's a card like that in Munchkin, which has
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's
a
like
sword that also has an arm, so you can put another sword in the sword's hand, and then you have two swords.
Yeah, Munchkins is great.
Right.
Maybe you could just come up with something. What I could see definitely for magic, making something work that would normally not, like in metallurgy. If you try to combine two different metals that normally don't alloy, maybe you just cheat a little bit with magic, or maybe you have something that is super sharp but brittle, like obsidian, for instance, and then you just magically kind of condense the thing and hold it together. Like, even if it fractures, the magic still holds it together, so it still works.
That's cool. That's a cool idea. I like that. We solved the problem.
Another thing that is really common is the flaming swords or flaming weapons in general that we've already mentioned. But I'm not sure if that would really do anything, because the flames have to be really, really hot to do any additional damage. Well, the being struck with the sword does a lot of damage, so it probably could be used useful in a bind or something, especially if the opponent doesn't really know about it. So you can just get your flame on and hold it under the nose or something.
I don't know.
Well, and also you would. Go ahead.
Okay, that's for me. The only time I think that flaming sword would make sense is if you can somehow control it in a way that while you struck, you're actually setting the person on fire instead of just directly cauterizing their wounds for them.
I was going to say that, yeah, you're kind of helping them a little bit by, cauterizing the wound as soon as you cut it. It's kind of, yeah, it would hurt like a mother fluffer, but it would actually kind of be good for wound healing.
Yeah, the moment you make the flames really, really hot, like a blowtorch, for example, which is devastating if anywhere near tissue, or living tissue, that is, you would probably have to protect your sword from the, well, you would have to protect your sword from the heat too, because A, it's made to cut metal, so that works pretty well on your sword too. And B, the heat, it would basically be a heat treatment for your sword, and you don't want that, because if your sword has been heat treated to have... Yeah. Well, the talking point I wrote down for this actually starts with Ta gueule, c'est magique. Shut your mouth, it's magic.
It's magic, man. It's magic. Because, like, if it wasn't gonna hurt your sword, if your sword was had a magical base inside of it, so it wasn't gonna, like, hurt it, like, the other cool thing about fire would be, like, when you're attacking that person, not necessarily, like, causing wounds, right? Like, if it was hot enough, like, could you do damage to their armor a lot better? Like, would that be a thing?
Cutting through their armor with your torch?
If it were that more, it would be like, like, you'd be like, like you're like a soldering thing, I don't know, like the torch thingy, and you're just like, shh.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the problem, I guess, because you want to have to hold it against the armor for a while.
Yeah.
Just wait a second, huh? It will go through.
Just keep hacking at it.
Why don't you just throw a magical hot burning coal into the gap of the armor and it's just kind of traveling through?
Manual, tell me it's in a manual somewhere. Like, and then you toss a hot burning coal down their armor, and you're like,
but that's also the thing where I kind of wonder, okay, if you have all this advanced magical stuff that can do damage in all kinds of ways, why even bother getting into melee? Why don't you just have a magical flamethrower or a magic ice crystal gun or whatever the hell? Because you don't really need to have that in the sword. If you can just generate the damaging magical effect, you can just shoot them at a distance. Like, if you're not a magic user, yeah, you just get some kind of amulet that has the spell in there or whatever, and you just point it at them, and there you go. Flame, or wherever, meteor dropping on their head or whatever.
Maybe the amulet costs a lot more, so you can't afford it, but you can afford to get an enchantment on your sword.
I don't know, I see a different problem with it. We already know that the weapons and the armorers had this huge fight back and forth throughout all of history. Arms race, exactly. So why wouldn't the armors you wear in that setting just already be good enough to go, flaming sword, meh, I don't care, I have an anti-flame armor.
Yeah, the magic you put on your sword to make it flame resistance could be put on the armor again, and
yeah, or you could just have the opposite element on the armor, like you have whatever on your bracer, you have different buttons for different elements. So when somebody comes at you with a flame sword, you just go ice armor and just cover it in either water or whatever.
Those should totally be a thing, but I think it still comes back to, in the game, you have to pay monies for people to do it. So first you're poor, you can't have all that stuff. And it'd be like, yes, I should get magic resistant, flame resistant armor. And you're like, but I'm a poor peasant, and I don't have money.
Yeah.
So...
And in many systems it actually is like that. That's how we got here, I think. You've got your 4 swords, one against zombies, one against whatever.
Yeah. And also same in history. I mean, the peasants could never afford armor. They if they were lucky, they could have a proper blade. But then they're facing someone in full plate armor and hardened steel, and they're just shit.
Sounds pretty realistic to me, guys. What we've just come to the conclusion with is that the it's
Don't be
realistic,
fooled.
guys. This magical world is realistic. Is that what we just?
But I don't
That
know.
was what
Then
we
you
said,
have
right?
the poor peasants who come up with specific weapons against heavily armored knights.
Yeah.
They're gonna die.
Specific tactics. Let's fight in a swamp so those suckers all get
Swarm
drowned.
them!
Well, but
That's what DMs do.
one heavily armored knight or something against two peasants with 2-meter-long poles, I would actually put my money on the peasants.
Yeah,
There's a reason that the Chinese came up with this thing here. You don't need any training. You pretty much stand there and
Just
swing
hack
it
at
like a
people.
baseball bat, and there, cavalry be gone.
Yeah, especially if you're dealing with cavalry. Basically, you just need to kill the horse or disable it so that the knight falls down. As soon as the knight is on the floor, this standard stereotype of a knight in full armor not being able to get up is nonsense. You can move just fine in full plate armor, but once you're on the ground, if they jump you immediately and whip out their daggers and thrust the
I
daggers into the
think
gap.
there's the element of falling off the horse too, which
Yeah.
that's not fun. I can't imagine.
Yeah,
No.
even Superman
Yeah,
is
didn't
not
they-
immune to that.
I saw one of my favorite history lessons, right? So you got the people who are on the horses and they're charging, right, first. And it was the job of the archer to basically just take out the throats of the horse so that it would just get terrified and turn around and charge back into their own people. And then then if you fall off a charging horse, you just you'd probably die on impact at that point in all that armor. So
Well, I don't think that the armor would be the problem there. The remaining horses charging over you might be, though.
Yeah.
well, there's that too. But I feel that can't be a fun experience. I don't want to try it. That's all I'm saying.
So I guess you
Falling
could
off a
have
horse.
magical horse scaring fireworks.
Right? Oh yeah, we're talking about magic.
Oh no, we just left the field of magic. The whole reason, because I really like discussions like this and why I like to have them on cons with other gamers or even within my groups while we are not playing, when waiting for somebody or whatever, is because you usually come up with something so much cooler than just the standard stuff. Okay, how does this magic work? So does it just make it sharper? Well, if it's sharp, it's sharp. So sharper doesn't really do anything. So what else could it do? And then you come into a situation where you are fighting a spirit, and you're like, well, just a sharper weapon wouldn't really work, probably, because how do we really fight against these ghostly beings or whatever? So, and I think that's the interesting thing about that you come up with explanations that are probably much cooler than just it's whatever stuff.
So magic horse scaring fireworks.
Sounds like a thing.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm liking it. Let's do it.
I don't know. It sounds too complicated to me. I'd say just put belly dancer coin belts on all your soldiers and you're good.
Or we could use arrows and because they were crescent shaped. You know what I'm talking about? The crescent shaped arrows. Those things are cool. That was a
Don't
fun
really help you
history.
much against horses, though.
Well, they were made for cutting open the horse's throat, because they spin, right? But yeah, I don't know. That's all I know.
I just noticed I've never actually seen a magical arrow that just makes it fly faster, which would make a lot of sense. If you just had some kind of magical rocket propellant. So as soon as it has left the string, it just goes
like a shuttle.
Yeah.
I think that would be really hard to fire, though, as soon as you can't hit something directly, but have to do the curve shot.
Oh, it would.
wouldn't that help you though to make the distance before you have to start shooting like that longer?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It would, could basically fly like a rifle bullet. You know, more of. They also have a trajectory, of course, but it's a lot straighter than an arrow.
So what you're saying is that instead of magical arrows, you just put guns in the game.
Gun arrows.
That would be
But you
so
could have
lame.
magical crossbow bolts, which just kind of kind of a one-time enchantment. That's kind of like like you said, a space shuttle.
Or, I guess you could incorporate the wind, and it's like wind magic just sort of propels it.
If you reduce the air resistance, that might be a thing.
Oh, like maybe like it's got like a force field in front of it or something? Like
Yeah, and then you're shooting
the air before the arrow.
And you,
I think I'm like riding my explosive arrows.
Yeah, you did all this magic on this arrow, and then you're shooting it, and you just miss.
Right?
And it
How
breaks
about
because it hits a rock.
worm-seeking arrows or enemy-seeking arrows?
No, you critically fail and you break your bow. That's what happens.
I don't know, heat-seeking arrows, and then you didn't know that your target is actually undead, and the arrow comes right back at you. Oh,
Not again!
I'm gonna save that one for the next time.
Why you no worm?
I'm like, wait, no, you can't work.
Yeah, how to find these stupid magic Fletcher makes heat-seeking arrows +2 against undead. Sorry.
Yeah, that didn't work so well.
Wait. You first use your explosive arrow to set the undead on fire, and then you fire the heat-seeking
There we go.
She's good. I like that. That's good.
And we're back at the quiver with the 500 different trick arrows.
I'm gonna pick out the one I need right now.
Well, wouldn't it be neat if you
Magic
could
quiver.
have the magical enchantments kind of like in sticker format or something? You take your arrow, then you have your collection of different effects, and okay, I'm just gonna go for that. You just put it on there.
No. I just want a quiver that's telepathically linked to me and just pushes the arrow I want up. There, done.
Yeah, magic. Done. You're right. Perfect.
good,
Or
magic.
have a little minion that's like sitting on your back, and you're just like, quick! The
I
explosive
still have to
arrow.
talk to them.
It's like,
Come on, Imp, give me a
you're like,
cannon.
haha.
Yeah, but what if you're stealthing around?
Oh no! It needs to be a goblin with like a little not a golf cart. What are those things called? A little caddy who
The
basically.
caddy,
Yeah, well, I would use a number 7 for that, sir.
I love
And
it. That's so wonderful.
Then your game master can also screw with you and nope, sorry, today's Imp protest day.
Yeah, we don't work on this day.
National Imp Rights Day. He's on a strike.
I demand more pay.
I don't pay you.
What am I paying that thing even?
I demand pay.
I want part of
What
your
are
soul.
doing sandwiches?
Let me just suck on your soul for a little bit here.
You know
Shut
what,
up and
at that
give me the
point,
damn
I
arrow.
goblins, put it on my bow, and there you can suck on the soul of my enemies.
Yeah, then you bully the imp or whatever into still giving you every arrows, and he just gives you the wrong ones and
The
always
wrong
says,
ones.
"Oops."
Yeah. Sorry. I guess I need prescription glasses. Oh, magical glasses.
Magical glasses.
Oh boy,
only
that's
I
what I
had
meant
more.
with. That's what I
They were
meant
fit
with you
properly.
come up with so much cooler things if you start to think about it. Great.
I don't know if it's really much cooler things. We started into goblin enslavement.
What else are
yeah,
goblins
well,
for? I don't understand.
Yeah. Goblins are immune to morality, active and passive. So.
Yeah, I don't know. They're green.
I think the spokesperson
Hey,
for the
what's wrong
Goblin
with being
Union
green?
wants to have a word with you.
Are being green.
Yeah, I'm actually with the Goblin Workers Association, and
No, not the union.
yeah, and they obviously have to be linked to the mafia somehow.
The Goblin Mafia.
Goblin Mafia. That's
That
a
sounds
scary
like something
thought right there.
Shadowrun would have.
You know, it would.
That sounds like something Shadowrun should have.
Yeah. What are we kidding?
It would be kind of funny if you travel through a city and suddenly, oh, what's all that ruckus and noise? Oh, that's just the Goblin Pride Parade.
Well, no, I'm not
taking
allowed.
notes. Like, I'm like, all right, my next GM campaign, Goblin Parade, right? And yes, Goblin Caddy, all right.
Kristin, you don't have to take notes on the air. You can just rewatch the video and do that.
Maybe she just doesn't want to see our mugs again.
Yeah, you can just minimize the window so you don't have to.
I can just listen.
Just listen. Okay,
I'm gonna actually get my Goblin Caddy and I'll have him take notes for me. I'm like, well, you need to watch this and take notes so that I can.
Yeah, you will give him the ideas about payment and unions and workers' rights. Don't let your Goblin Caddy watch this.
Bad plan. What do you mean I'm not getting
This is why I stick to house elves.
Yeah, because house elf enslavement is so much better than goblin enslavement, right?
Of course.
No, that Dobby.
At least one person directly jumped to what I was alluring to.
Yeah, it's not a cool hangout without mentioning Harry Potter. Great. Okay, we are at an hour 13 or something now. So, as much as I would love to talk to you for hours, and as much as I could talk to you for hours on, I would like to end the live show in a few. So, if people want to find you on the interwebs, where can they do that? I will start with myself. I've got a personal channel, and I forgot the name of it right now. It's not that important. Mainly as German videos about BattleTech. So, if you're into that, you can search for Mechkrieger by Wallace, or I think it's Evil Daniel Wallace. You can also find me on Twitter at Evil Dan Wallace. Not Daniel, but Dan, Evil Dan Wallace. And, well, you can leave a message on this video or anything anywhere else on the Author Geek Alliance, and somebody will probably find it and tell me about it. So, what about you, Kristin?
Golly, I'm in so many places. My main website is cakegolem.com. That's like the creature golem. That's my production company, where we do lots of good things, so you can check that out. And I am on Twitter. That's OReallySunja. ORLYSUNJA. I can spell. And I'm also on the YouTubes, so if you just look up Kristin Brumley there, you can find me in all of my different videos. I do a lot of different things, LARPing related, HEMA related, and cooking. I do everything.
So, Kara is next.
I'm probably the easiest. Because, well, I live on the internet, I kind of never really have the time to do much. There is still a YouTube channel in existence. You will find it if you are looking for Cara the Rat. Yes, like the little squeaking vermin thing you're thinking of right now. There are a few older videos on there. I do answer comments, but for newer stuff, I'm just gonna jump over to Skull. You next.
Yeah. If you just type in Skallagrim on YouTube, you should find those stuff, because I've made way too many videos and pissed off too many people. So.
Yeah. And you are probably the most subscribed HEMA channel on the webs right now. I was somehow under the impression that Schola Gladiatoria had more subscribers than you, but I was so wrong.
Yeah, I don't know where he's at now, but I think it's less than 200,000.
Skull has something that Schola Gladiatora doesn't have. Casually strolling in boobs.
I thought you meant beard.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Great. So thank you.
He knows more than I do, though, about stuff, so he's worth checking out too.
Oh, absolutely. And there are such amazing videos about almost all the things we have talked about on the web. If they are not on Skull's channel, they are over on Lindy Beige, Lloyd's channel, or Schola Gladiatoria. Matt, who mentions LARP and reenactment and role-playing games in a lot of his videos, as does Lloyd. And yeah, there are tons of amazing videos about all of that. So, thank you very, very much for being on the show. It was a blast. And thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing and all of that. And so, that's it for this time. And bye.
Bye.